Hello, everyone. Really nice to be here and great to get this topic kick-started, right? It's a very exciting topic, and we have a lot that we're going to cover today. A lot of exploration that we've seen our clients doing. Some are actually going into pilots, production. So we have a lot of interesting use cases and practical solutions that we're going to share today, right? So if we move to the next slide, I wanted to give a quick overview of what all we're going to cover in the session. And we're going to begin with, of course, defining agentic AI, right? What does it mean? What has the evolution been when it comes to these concepts? Along with the key characteristics that we've seen agentic AI to have versus, the traditional intelligent automation as well as generative AI that we're all used to hearing about. The second part is going to be around getting that to action. So the second section is going to be about a lot of practical use cases of how you can use or how we've seen our clients using agentic AI within procurement, and giving you, an overview of how you can use it as well, right? So the third section is going to be around how you can actually drive that towards success, whether it be thinking about getting a human in the loop, creating it to be a feedback friendly mechanism, creating a very strong architecture in terms of even managing the security or the privacy concerns that you all may have with respect to agentic AI implementation. So with that, I think I'll get started with the first part of it, right? Defining agentic AI. And before I get started again, just keeping it out there, right? Feel free to throw your questions into the chat. We would really like this to be more interactive. We'll address your questions as we get them. And we've also received a lot of questions from you all beforehand. So we'll be kind of, putting that into our talk track as well as we go on. All right. So getting started with, right, what is agentic AI and what does it mean for you, right? So I think all of you are used to hearing about generative AI. We've all worked on generative AI. We all know how good it is in terms of giving us recommendations. We all know about the hallucinations as well. What agentic AI brings as a differentiation is the execution or the action orientation part of it, right? When it comes to the autonomy or when it comes to independence, that really has increased when it comes to AI agents as you compare it with the previous versions of AI assistants or co-pilots, right? So in terms of just becoming more action oriented, what does it do, right? What it does is actually it has a certain level of context awareness, right? So because of which it's able to create those hyper personalized experiences for you. And it also has a lot of defined workflows which are actually independent at executing the tasks that it is given to do, right? So what we're also going to talk about going forward is a little bit about, is it just about tasks or is it about the outcome that we want to drive or the goal that we want to drive, right? And what we want to tell you is that there are many different types of agents, and there are many agents also which will be working in collaboration to actually work towards a common goal, sort of like an actual human would do, right? Are we there at that human stage? No, but we'll also talk about that going forward as to what level of sensibility that do AI agents have at this time, and where do we see the market currently, right? So with that, just to kick us off and get the audience to a nice interactive level, we're going to start with a quick poll, right? So if we move to the poll, this is the question that we all want to pose to you as the audience. So what is your organization's current stance on using AI agents for procurement? Are you already using them? Currently undergoing a pilot? Planning a pilot in the next 6 to 12 months, exploratory stage, or not planning to use at all? All right. A lot of dynamic inputs that are coming in. I see there's a good mix of already using and exploratory, right? So that's the maximum selected option as of now. Let's see what we end at. I think we'll give it another couple of seconds before we close.
Yeah, looks like the exploratory stage is winning at this stage, Bhanushee.
Exactly, yeah. So you cannot ignore it, right? At this point, with so much conversations in the market, this is something that you cannot ignore. All right. So exploratory stage, 40% of you have selected that, right? And I think we can close the poll now and share the results with the audience as well. So 40% have selected exploratory stage, followed by already using them, which is also at 25%, which I would say is a pretty good number, right? And I would be really interested to understand what use cases are you using them for? Are you using it for, a combination of sourcing activities, or are you just trying out some particular use cases such as, RFX creations and all of that? So that would be interesting to understand from you all as well. But what we will do now is jump to the next section, right, in which we're going to give you what characteristics do we see agents having, right? What are the typical characteristics we see in the market, which are actually best in class for agents?
Yeah. So, I mean, the survey results were also quite interesting, and we do see a lot of enterprises exploring the potential AI use cases, and not just AI use cases, but also leveraging some of these next-gen technologies around agentic AI. And agentic AI has kind of become a buzzword these days, and we see there's a lot of confusion in the market as well in terms of what truly is agentic AI. So just to talk about some of the characteristics which separates or differentiates agentic AI from some of the traditional AI-based solutions. Number one would be around the level of autonomy that these solutions offer. And I think this was something that Bhanushee was also alluding to earlier. So with agentic AI, the conversation is not just about automating specific workflows and then having the human to supervise or basically take decisions on top of that. But with agentic AI, we do see a lot of autonomy coming in as part of the solution in itself, wherein the agentic AI solution can make decisions, interpret insights, and even execute upon them with requiring minimal to no human interventions. However, currently we do see most of the solutions requiring some level of human interventions, but going forward with the pace of advancements that are happening in this space, it would not really be surprising to see truly autonomous solutions as well. Beyond that, another area where agentic AI is different from your traditional solutions is not really just one single use case or a solution which makes it agentic AI. So typically you would find an agentic AI solution involving multiple agents or solutions which are orchestrated to actually process the inputs, execute the workflows, and then even take actions on top of that. Beyond that, has a feedback mechanism in place wherein it continuously learns based on the experience or the performance that it has had across the overall workflows that it is managing. As part of this, it can also help you optimize your workflows, address some of the inefficiencies that you would have within the process, and even improve your overall cycle times. And it is not really a point-in-time solution. Agentic AI solution typically would have real-time adaptability as well, depending on how the situation evolves with regards to the activities or tasks that it is executing upon. Now, moving forward, let's also see the typical architecture that you would have within an agentic AI solution. So at the top, you would have the various channels through which you would be feeding in inputs to your agentic AI solution. So these can be your applications, chatbots, or even APIs from some other solutions. Then the core of the architecture would be the AI agents, which can be not just a single agent, but a multiple agents, which would work through this entire workflow with regards to gathering inputs or information from the solutions, interpreting and reasoning on top of it, taking decisions, creating work, finally executing into action. And this is not just a sequential sort of a process. You would also have feedback mechanism wherein you would continuously learn and adapt based on the overall performance of the solution. And you would also have a knowledge database in place so that you can actually understand what is happening, what the agent is doing, and what's the reasoning behind some of the actions that it is taking. Beyond that, the foundation would be the AI model, which would be the LLMs that you would be using, which needs to be trained on procurement specific data for the solution to be actually relevant for procurement workflows. And at the bottom, you would have your overall AI infrastructure comprising of the GPUs, cloud infrastructure, and even your data management layer. Now, moving forward, if we look at how do you bring agentic AI into action as part of your overall tech stack that you would have for procurement operations? So typically, most of the organizations would already have a systems of record, which is basically your foundational I would say, layer wherein you would store your master data, your contractual data, your spend data, and other information that you would have within procurement. And typically, this is more of a static sort of a, I would say, layer that you would have, wherein it may not really be adapting to your real-time situations and how the overall business environment evolves. Then you would have your system of engagement layer, which is basically the layer which facilitates communication between various stakeholders that you would have within procurement. And here also, typically, you would find that these layer would be limited to interaction, but they may not really be able to execute decisions or optimize your workflows and take actions on top of that, depending on how the scenarios evolve. And that this is where the system of execution or the agentic AI comes into place and basically closes the gap that you would have between your insights and the actions that you need to take upon on top of the insights that you would have. So here it would actually sit on top of your systems of record and system of engagement layer and basically help you to truly move towards that autonomous decision making execution platform, which actually addresses some of the inherent gaps that your system of record or your system of engagement might have. Now, with that, we move on to another interesting section, and not a section, but more of an offer for all the attendees that we have here. So as part of our research coverage, we have actually done quite a lot of research in some of the disruptive or more of the up-and-coming areas when it comes to procurement technologies. And as part of this webinar, we have a complimentary, we offer you one complimentary access to one of our reports. So the two options that you would have would be the procurement orchestration space. And given the emphasis on orchestration with Agentic AI, I think this would be an interesting read for everyone. And then aligned to that, we also have the report focused on autonomous sourcing solutions also that are out there in the market. And autonomous sourcing, as many of you would know, is actually emerging as one of the more prominent, most prominent areas with regards to leverage of AI and even agentic AI. So with that, so in terms of to access this offer, there's a link in the chat and you can indicate your interest through that chat and we'll get back to you in terms of the next steps around that. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Amit, who will talk about how do we see agentic AI in action within procurement.
Thanks, Prateek. So far we have discussed as to what agentic AI is, how has it evolved, what is the architecture that is functioning behind the scenes of an AI agent, and in general, how do AI agents collaborate with each other, right? But what we will discuss now is how exactly can procurement stakeholders leverage it for the various activities that are more amenable to be automated with agentic AI. And along with that, we will also discuss what are the various other use cases that could be potentially more amenable for agentic AI. Now, firstly, what we want to discuss with you guys is that traditional intelligent automation and agentic AI-led automation can be differentiated on multiple parameters, but the most important aspect to keep in mind is that when you talk about traditional intelligent automation, which is a mixture of traditional AI/ML and also natural language processing, then you get those task-oriented agents which can function on predefined workflows and also help you complete or automate certain tasks which you assign to it. What I mean by that is, so when I compare it to something like a autonomous AI agent, that particular agent will not just understand the task that you are assigning to it, but will also define what is the best way to pursue that task, hence making it more goal-oriented. It will break down the tasks into multiple subtasks and then also define what are the various steps that need to be taken in order to achieve that task. So what happens in such a scenario is that while with the help of traditional AI, that is traditional intelligent automation, you would be able to have more deterministic ways of working, where you have defined how the agent should function, but it is at a loss when it faces more complex or ambiguous use cases. For example, if you're talking about negotiations and you want to autonomously negotiate with your partners, that is when maybe the boundaries that have been set for a task oriented agent will uh, pull it back from providing you with the best outcomes. As opposed to an AI agent, what an AI agent will do in such a scenario is, firstly, it will have the context or historical data which you have had as part of the interactions with the particular partner. Then it will also have access to knowledge databases, as Pratik mentioned. It will have access to market intelligence, and on the basis of the requirement, it will pull the right amount of data, create those steps in place so that you're optimally negotiating with your partners. And what I mean by optimally negotiating is that the AI agent will not just take into consideration the feedback that it is getting from the client, but will also allow the human in the loop to make changes if required at any sort of step so that it does not go in a different direction altogether. That is why agents, as in truly autonomous agents, they will be able to define your workflows in which are set behind the scenes, and also ensure that the goal is pursued in an optimal manner. Uh, Apart from that, one other aspect which is crucial is that AI agents can collaborate with each other, which is something we did not see in the previous versions or previous automations which were happening with traditional AI technologies, right? So a chatbot, for example, it could function in such a manner that you ask it questions and it will give you necessary answers. Even with generative AI enabled chatbots, the limitation was that you just have a dialogue with it. It will provide you with certain sort of insights, but can it take the action on behalf of you? It cannot. But when it comes to agentic AI led automation, the difference is that it will not just take input from you, but then the supervisor agent, which we will discuss a bit later in this particular webinar, that supervisor agent will firstly identify which should be the primary agent for this task. So, for example, if we have a sourcing request coming in, then the supervisor agent will understand the intent. It will assign that task to the sourcing agent. The sourcing agent will then further decide if it needs to collaborate with any other agents. So let's say the sourcing agent wants to collaborate with the supplier discovery agent, then it can do that. If it wants to collaborate with the negotiation agent, it can also do that. But it will stay as the primary agent. It will assign the task to other agents, collaborate with them effectively, and once the output is ready, it will send it back to the supervisor agent, which will further send it to the human user. And hence the loop is closed with the help of collaboration and the self-learning capability that agentic AI has.
Yeah. These are great examples, Amit. And I think when it comes to feedback and multi agent collaboration, right? One of the things we've also seen is, let's say if you have negative feedback related to an AI agent in one particular case, then in the second time, what the AI agent will do is take that feedback and loop in other agents as it sees fit, right? In which one agent is
Yeah.
actually doing the task and the other agent is analyzing that negative sentiment from the past and trying to give you a different output based on the feedback that you've given it, right? So that is the level of sort of context awareness or changes that the AI agents can also make when it comes to actually incorporating feedback and acting in a different way the next time. And that's how you train it, right? That's how you're actually getting the agents to be better with time as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Manushi. And I mean, that is when, I mean, even the topic of the webinar is that human decisions will be empowered with AI agents, right? And often this is a mistook notion in the market that maybe AI agents will completely replace human beings, but that is not true. There are limitations which AI agents also have. You will always want the human in the loop to show the empathy, to be there and correct it in cases of an abrupt scenario that arises in a particular situation. That is when human in the loop will be very important in order to keep the agent in track on track. Yeah.
Yeah, aligned to
Talking a
that,
bit, yeah. Yes.
questions that we got before the webinar, and I think it fits into the discussion that we are having, is basically how will RP and agentic AI partner in future? So any thoughts that you would want to share with the audience on that?
Yes, definitely. Now, so there are four steps in which you can primarily think about AI agent. Firstly, it will interpret what the task is. Then it will plan how to go about the task. After that, it will execute the task and validate that the task has been performed in the right manner. And then it will close the loop by learning. Now, this is what AI agent can do. But when it comes to a RPA, RPAs are more deterministic in nature, and hence they will follow fixed rules and predefined outcomes. But that does not mean that RPAs wouldn't be useful, or RPA chatbots wouldn't be useful. So not all procurement use cases require a agent. That is what we keep on saying when we speak to our clients as well, Prateek. Uh, there are certain activities which can be better served with just RPA chatbots. Maybe more task intensive activities, which can do with not having that highly adaptable nature which AI agents have, or even the goal orientation, which breaks down all the objectives into various hierarchies and goal prioritization mechanisms. Those sophisticated level of automation, maybe it could be required for activities such as negotiation, which I already spoke about, or then defining category strategies. These are activities which require a lot of judgment, and hence uh, can do with autonomous AI agents, or even agentic AI for that matter. But RPA can still be a part of this Prakriti stack with managing those task intensive activities which do not require a lot of sophisticated technology at the working behind the scenes.
Got it. Thanks, Amit. And just to add on to that, I believe, I mean, RPA and agentic AI need not really be viewed in separate lights as such. And as we talked about, right, agentic AI is not really about just one particular solution or use case. You may actually have your RPA solution being orchestrated, or the output from your RPA solution orchestrated by an overarching agentic AI solution, who then sort of interprets its output and then executes on a particular best course of action aligned to any specific use case that you would have within the procurement value chain. Yeah.
Yeah. In line with that, this is one of the examples for intake request. And we're just showcasing how an AI agent will break down the task into multiple subtasks and then go about it. So once the input is received in the form of purchase request, the intake AI agent will then automatically assess and categorize the request. It will also assign the approval workflows according to the guardrails that the organization has set, and also its own intuition and context awareness that it has. Once it does that, it will not just stop and let all the activities happen, because as we know, there are various bottlenecks that keep on arising across the approval process, and business users tend to have a bad user experience because of this, right? That is where the adaptability which AI agents have will come to the fore. Then these AI agents will be able to dynamically adjust the workflows in real time, such that it takes into consideration both external and internal parameters or conditions that are causing these bottlenecks, and will keep on continuously monitoring the progress so that not just is the process streamlined, but also the user experience is enhanced at the end of the day. Uh, while we have spoken at length about task orientation versus goal orientation, but how does an AI agent actually do that, right? So here we tell you a bit about that. firstly, as I mentioned, is the interpret stage. Sorry, there is some issue with. Okay, I'll quickly move back to the slide. Yeah. So when we are at the interpretation stage, the agent will break down the goal into various subtasks, and also it will have that contextual awareness, because these AI agents have perception frameworks that are employed simultaneously so that they can process and integrate multiple data streams, and also have that rich historical context, which will help them plan according to the environment that they are functioning in. So these AI agents will process and synthesize any sort of complex information stream in real time using those sophisticated neural architectures that are working behind the scenes. That allows them to assess potential impacts, which will happen due to changes in internal and external conditions, and then accordingly decide how to go ahead and plan. So when it comes to the planning stage, an ideal autonomous agent will try to uh, create workflows which more or less mirror human cognitive processes. What I mean by that is it will be non-deterministic in nature, although it will function within the guardrails set by the organization, but still it will have the liberty to decide what are the various steps to take, the manner in which to take those steps, and also which agents to collaborate with, as we have discussed initially. After the planning stage is over, it will move on to making those decisions, where it will prioritize the tasks based on urgency, and will also proactively decide where human intervention is required and where human intervention is not required. Again, uh, when we spoke to various tech providers who are offering these capabilities, what we saw was they have put in human in the loop at various stages of the process in order to ensure that the AI agent does not go off the track, and the human continuously is monitoring the situation, but the amount of intervention that the humans have to do will be drastically reduced when you're using a truly autonomous AI agent. Uh, and once that stage is complete, as in the planning stage is complete, then we move towards more execution and validation. So it will execute the actions and also keep on monitoring the tasks, as we discussed in the previous example of intake agent. And lastly, with the help of supervised learning techniques, reinforcement learning strategies, it will be able to continuously learn and keep itself updated, and ensure that it is able to refine its decision making with the help of real time and historical data as it goes ahead. Okay, just one another example. We already spoke a bit about it, but how does AI agent negotiate tail spend activities in real time? So once it gets input from the sourcing agent with regards to which are the suitable suppliers, uh, then it will go ahead and conduct those negotiations. And also it will rely heavily on the guardrails, as I spoke about, and I'll keep on reiterating that because no one wants their agents to go off the track. But once that is done, then it will go ahead and decide which sorts of decision need to be taken in order to optimize the output of that negotiation. And it will require a lot of information to be fed into it initially with regards to the supplier behavior, or also the kind of relationship that you have with that supplier, but that is all that it requires. And once that is done, it will be able to handle any sorts of routine activities which humans would find to be very tedious or non-productive. It can take care of those, like doing the back and forth with the suppliers, and also maybe uh, giving those alerts or notifications to them from time to time. And then lastly, it will get the human into the loop if there is an exceptional scenario and it wants to escalate that to the human. So with this, it ensures that it is giving you a speedy response while at the same time complying with the guardrails of the organization and not making any decisions without human input, which makes it safer for the organizations to use.
Yeah.
With that, yeah, uh, we have another question for you guys. So we would like to understand which procurement activity are you most likely to leverage AI agents for? We have spend analytics and insights, we have requisition and PO processing. So all the activities across the source to pay value chain have been covered here. And we would like to hear what your views are on this. Bhanushee, I can see that there is a lot of focus on category management right now. Also, requisition PO processing is another activity where we're seeing a lot of respondents inclined towards.
Right. I see that supplier management is at a 0 percentage, probably because of the relationship angle that comes in here. But let's see if we
Yeah,
are able to, see some responses for that. There are parts of it that we've at least seen uh, AI agents being used for in the market, right? So
yeah,
good.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other interesting thing is that on
Interesting to
contract
see is
management, yeah,
yeah. So just a thought. So what's interesting to see is, unlike say some of the previous technologies like RPA and all, we do see a lot more sort of focus on the upstream procurement areas, and it's not really about say leveraging technology just for transactional processes. But given the nature and the impact that AI solutions have, I think it's not really surprising to see a lot more focus on the source to contract part of the value chain as well.
yeah, that's
That's
true.
true.
Yeah, right.
So I think when it
Um,
comes to downstream procurement, typically the effort intensive nature has come in those aspects, right? And with the Agentic AI and the autofill features that it offers from past experience, that has really been sorted out. But agree to Prateek's point, category management, sourcing, all of these are actually seeing a lot of great adoption when it comes to Agentic AI. And we are actually going to share a lot of use cases going forward on this, right? So accounts payable, okay, it's at a low. Contract management is also at a good 23%, which is good to see because we've seen that agentic AI is increasingly being used to do that basic analysis for contracts or do contract validation and actually integrate very well to the CLM tools as well. So good to see results and good to see that you're actually thinking about leveraging AI agents, right? If we get down into understanding what use cases are out there in the next slide now, what we wanted to talk about across procurement is all the source to pay sort of use cases, right? Spend analytics to accounts payable. What is it that we've seen them in the market when it comes to most popular or most use cases? So, starting with spend analytics, right? We've seen a lot of anomaly detection and spend forecasting and a lot of market insights gathering as well when it comes to that. Going on to, let's say, category management, we've seen category strategy builders. We've also seen a bunch of, different types of category experts when it comes to AI agents. So let's say there would be an MRO expert or there would be facilities expert, and all of these agents are sort of, you can select them, right? When it comes to building your category strategies, they'll have already integrated the insights that are there from past sourcing events, past category templates that you may have, and so on and so forth, right? So what we've seen is actually a variety of agents when it comes to even the sub use cases within it. For instance, let's say we're talking about RFX creation, then we'll have a specific use case for one type of category within RFPs, or another type of category will have a separate RFX creation, right? So that variety is really coming out there in the market. And when it comes to capabilities, of course, we're seeing a lot of different types of you know when it comes to, let's say, if you want to do an auction versus if you want to do an RFP, that level of assessment or that level of agentic capabilities are also out there in the market. So I think category management, sourcing, strategic sourcing, all of this at a holistic level, again, to our previous points, right? It's not that you have to go to one agent and then that agent will just do that task for you. you go to a sourcing agent. This agent will actually collaborate across all of these use cases and all of these different agents that have been built in, and they will all be acting upon what you need, right? So the workflow, the way it works is that you just enter your query. Let's say you want to, do an RFP or assess suppliers for meetings and events category. You will just be entering that, right, with some specifications as to maybe these are the type of suppliers I want to consider, or these are the type of requirements that I have, business requirements. And then it is the agent's responsibility to actually get all these sort of agents together and try to execute the tasks for you in a systematic manner. So when the workflows are set for all of this, the way these things are executed is, of course, not by use case. It's by what you want, right? The goal that you have. So I think what happens here is that there's also an integration to, let's say, which I mentioned before also, to, let's say, whichever your S2P suite may be. It may be a Coupa, it may be an Ariba, or it may be some of those best of breed solutions that are also out there in the market. What happens is that, let's say if you're creating a request and then you want to, maybe go ahead for an RFX next, that RFP will automatically move on to Coupa and be created as a sort of process in itself, right? And that's the level of integration that is actually out there. You can actually chat and then get to, actually executing all of your tasks, getting all the information. And if you're okay with all the steps that are out there, then you can just go ahead to the next level, right? So bringing that out is sort of what we wanted to do through this slide, right? If you want to, let's say, go to the P2P side or the supplier management side, all you need to do is think about, what is the goal that you have in mind? Do you want to onboard X supplier, or do you want to explore a particular number of suppliers? Or do you just want to directly book something, right? Directly negotiate and get me these results. Then all you need to do is enter that, and all of the steps will be followed. I think someone on the chat has actually asked a question about supplier management, right? And this is the slide that will help you answer it. I saw that there was a 0% response on supplier management in terms of how Agentic AI is being used for it. But actually, what we've seen in the market is that a lot of performance measurement and assessment is being done through AI agents, right? If you want to assess, let's say, your incumbents, or if you want to get more intelligence on some suppliers that are out there that will actually challenge your incumbents, or want to assess risks as well, right? With all the geopolitical issues that are coming in the past, in the recent past, this is also becoming an increasingly important parameter for sourcing professionals. So, supplier management, in terms of these activities, we've seen a lot of agents that have been built for this and actually are being leveraged by a few clients, select clients as well. So with that, I think what we would do is move on to the next page, because I think we've talked a little bit about how all of this is happening together. So we've written here that, okay, there's a super agent or an orchestrator agent that is actually getting you to execute all of these tasks together, but actually giving a reality check, right? Which I mentioned at the beginning, that currently we're not at the stage of course, the self-governing or reflection or self-learning type of agents, right? We're still at a sort of middle path, and that's not really bad, right? What I'm trying to say is that there are agents that do tasks, right? It would just be more of let's say single tasks that are executed. Then there are quasi agents, right, which are actually orchestrating as well, which I described on the previous slide, that you just need to enter your goal, and these agents will sort of get in a human in the loop and execute all the activities that need to be done, right? So where we are at is at this stage, right, the quasi agent stage. But what we need to see is that there is a future out there, right? I spoke a little bit about feedback and negative feedback and how it adapts itself, but true agents are actually building in a lot of adaptability, right? So actually dynamically adjusting based on the outcomes or based on the feedback that you're giving, thinking about what is the goal, thinking about what should be prioritized, right, which are very human like activities, and also thinking about memory and the previous context that it may have. That is what true agents, and that is what we're moving towards, right? We've seen some examples of that happening even at the current stage, um, in terms of just taking feedback, or in terms of, let's say, recommending suppliers to you that have been selected in the past, you've done business with them in the past, or you maybe have an interest in, let's say, diversity focus or sustainability focus, and then the agent will automatically adapt itself to suggest those type of suppliers to you, right? So those use cases is what we've seen, but actually true agents will help you really will really get you, will really understand your context, and will really provide recommendations to a larger extent beyond the rule based workflows that you may have set for them, right? And following that, of course, we have the self-governing agents, which will do real-time reflection. They're really adaptable, and they have a very, very high, I would say, context awareness, right? Self-learning capabilities are very high. So, in terms of the workflows that you need to set, in terms of setting exceptions, in terms of training it, there would be a lot lesser that will need to be done because these agents are more adaptable and they would learn on the go. So this is where we are heading, and it's exciting times for the future, is what I would say, right? And more and more procurement time is meant to be saved as we go forward.
Bhanushee, there is an interesting question in the chat around what is the timeline that we anticipate to build agentic AI and also integrate it with our existing systems, right? So maybe you would remember this discussion we have had that it is not just about uh, going ahead and building your own agents, but there are other ways to go about it. We are seeing the rise of many platforms such as LangChain, which are allowing which are allowing enterprises to build their own AI agents on top of the architecture which is already available there. So there is no need to build anything from scratch. And also one other approach which we are seeing enterprises taking is just tapping into the pre-built agents which their current partners have. That way, it is easier to start small, identify what are the use cases where it is working well for you, and then scale it in such a manner that you will be able to see the ROI right in front of uh, your, I mean, the kind of use cases that you've chosen. So, yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we've actually been talking to a lot of providers, right? Service providers, tech providers, and there are a lot of out-of-the-box agents that have already been built by enterprises as well as by providers, right? So there's a lot already out there. And the good part, as Amit pointed out, is the configurability, the customizability that these agents have, right? Uh, all of them are built on low code, no code workflows, most of them, right? So it's very easy for the average user to actually modify them. All right. With that, we have an exciting event that is actually going to be held in September. So we just wanted to let this audience know. Engage, right? This is a flagship event that Everest Group does for GBS, Global Business Services, sourcing, and vendor management leaders. And we're really focused, as Everest Group's focused is on tech and tech services, right? And BPO as well, right? So BPO, IT services, technology, software. These are the categories that we cover in a lot of depth. We have large teams that are actually tracking the provider markets as well as the buyer markets across these areas, right? We're very connected into that ecosystem. And this event actually brings together that ecosystem. And what we do is we get our experts to deliver a lot of workshops and a lot of sessions. We facilitate roundtables with practitioners, buyers in the market who are actually discussing important topics, right? So that's sort of about Engage Dallas. We had our first Engage Dallas in the last year. We had one in London in the beginning of the year, and now we have another one in September that's coming up. So do check it out. Right, we had a lot of 450 plus attendees in the previous year, mostly practitioners, and of course Everest Group SMEs across areas that will be there to meet you. All right. With that, I think what we'll do is we'll jump. I know we want to address a lot of your questions as well. So, last section, Prateek, what do you have to tell us?
Yeah. So I think so far we have discussed agentic AI, the impact that it can have on procurement operations, and even some of the use cases across the value chain. But I think most of you would be wondering in terms of what would it actually take for you to implement some of these solutions within your enterprise environment. So with that, I think we actually have a question for you with regards to what are, say, some of your key challenges that you anticipate or have already seen when it comes to leveraging agentic AI or AI agents within your procurement operations?
We see change management featuring a lot. Data privacy and security, as we would expect,
That's the
is
most
showing up at the top.
understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. When we did a similar webinar on generative AI 2 years back, uh, we were seeing a lot of concerns around ethics and transparency, but I can see that it has toned down a bit, maybe because organizations have actively used generative AI and now they are at a stage where they can trust the outputs that it is providing and at the same time are secure about any sorts of ethic issues that might arise while using it.
Okay, I think we've gotten some interesting results, and not surprising to see data privacy and security still remains a key consideration. And I think especially with the discussion around AI agents, agentic AI, its ability to execute and take decisions, I think change management and workforce adaptability it is actually one of the key concerns that we have seen many of the enterprises also have. So now let's discuss some of these challenges in a little more detail. And I mean, fair to say, so these are actually some of the most prominent challenges or considerations that we see enterprises having. So from a data privacy and security standpoint, procurement is deals with a lot of sensitive information, whether it be your supplier information, data, your pricing information, the contractual terms that you would have. So I mean, having an agentic AI or an AI agent work on top of that does raise some security concerns and privacy concerns as well. Similarly, some of the other concerns that we have seen organizations highlight is more in terms of the transparency of the outputs or the actions that some of these AI agents take and the biases that they may have either from, say, the training of data, which typically or has traditionally been more in terms of the historical data that many of the organizations still leverage to train their AI models. And then there might be some hidden biases as well, and even a lack of transparency in terms of the reasoning and the way that a specific decision has been arrived at, especially if it's done through an AI agent. So typically we do see people a lot more forgiving in terms of human mistakes, but if an AI agent makes mistakes, then you cannot really let that go. I mean, the accountability part of it actually is a key sort of a challenge that we see many of the organizations raising. The other points are also around how do you actually leverage agentic AI on top of your existing platforms, whether you will be able to integrate it with your existing solutions and whether all your solutions would be interoperable. And the last one I think we had already discussed was it more in terms of the impact that it can have on your overall procurement talent model and how would your workforce need to adapt and work along with some of these technologies. However, that being said, we have actually seen many of the organizations navigating some of these challenges. So from a data management practice, establishing a strong data governance framework, breaking your data silos across the value chain and ensuring compliance as part of the process rather than viewing that as a separate activity. So those, I think many of these organizations have been able to navigate some of these challenges. Similarly, from a ethical and transparency issue standpoint, we do see enterprises focusing on adapting a lot of explainable AI frameworks. We see them conducting regular audits to ensure that biases don't really creep in terms of the actions that the AI agent is taking. And from an integration standpoint as well, we have seen a lot of focus on upgrading some of the legacy infrastructure, which may not really be suitable for leveraging agentic AI. And the workforce issue is still something that we see organizations sort of exploring in terms of the impact that it would have on their overall talent pyramid. But upskilling is something that we have seen has become a focus across the board, and it's not really about just procurement domain talent or category expertise at this stage. We do see a lot more emphasis on techno-functional talent, wherein while you would still want to have your talent to have your procurement category expertise, but they should be comfortable working on some of these next-gen solutions that are coming up in the market. Aligned to that, let's also talk about some of the governance principles that we see with Agentic AI. So if you move on to the next slide, you will see some of the key areas where we see this panning out is around aligned to the last point that I discussed, would be around reimagining the work that you have within procurement and the roles that people have. And I mean, the beauty of agentic AI comes from the multi-agent orchestration. So how do you actually ensure coordination between different AI agents so that all of them work towards the same goal and actually deliver the desired results or take the desired actions that you would want to take them to take. Similarly, from a data enablement perspective, there's a lot more emphasis on having good quality integrated data environment that not only ensures that your AI agents are trained, but they are also able to work consistently and near real time across the different data systems that you would have. Human in the loop governance still remains important. As Bhanushee talked about, I mean, we are not really truly there when it comes to truly agentic AI solutions. So this actually also becomes important from a governance standpoint, and even validating some of the results that or outcomes or actions that the AI solutions take. Aligned to that, you should also focus on having a scalable architecture and even extend your LLM or your AI principles across on an ongoing basis and monitor the performance that these agents have at an overall level. Now, talking about some of the other or some of the evolving principles in terms of how we see the overall AI and human dynamics evolve. So here, if you would see, Amit, if you can move to the, yeah. So yeah, overall, we do see a lot more focus on having responsible AI being integrated as part of your procurement ecosystem. So data privacy and security does take precedence, and we do see a lot more focus in terms of encryption, having access controls, compliance to the evolving regulatory environment, and even defining the ownership and accountability that you would have for AI-driven decisions with a human in the loop as well. There's a lot more focus on ensuring fairness and even removing some of the biases that may come in from historical data. Some of the levers that we see organizations leveraging are having audits, ongoing bias checks, and even training the model in such a way that it is able to address some of these biases at the training stage itself, rather than having to deal with them from an execution standpoint. Aligned to that, we also see a lot more focus on explainability and transparency when it comes to how some of these AI agents would work, and even the reasoning behind the actions that they would take. And overall, I mean, across the board, we do see a lot more focus on the governance part of leveraging some of these AI agents as well. So I think, yeah, we have covered most of the themes that we wanted to cover. I see we have some questions as well in the chat. So yeah, we can open the floor for discussing some of the questions that we have in the chat.
All right, great. I know we only have a couple of minutes left, so probably we'll not be able to address all questions, at least in this session. We'll see about the follow-ups. But there's one interesting question from Nathan. Where have we been seeing agentic AI overpromising and under-delivering? Amit, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. It sure is an interesting question, Bhanushee. And something that we mentioned earlier on in the discussion, that no matter what your partners tell you, you don't need AI agents for everything. And that is the message that we take to all of our conversations as well. When it comes to over promising, we are seeing that there are aspects where agentic AI's hype seems to be that it need not have human in the loop, and that it can completely automate activities. But the thing is that even if you are going across the whole circle of interpreting, planning, executing, and validating, and also the learning which AI agents do. But at the same time, uh, as we spoke about it, that we are not really seeing true AI agents as of now. What we are instead seeing are quasi agents who have certain capabilities, like they can collaborate and act together, but still they are task oriented. Eventually, when they get to be goal oriented, when they can adapt to the environment and, of course, optimize their workflows in order to achieve certain tasks, that is when we will see if they are able to deliver on the promise or not. But as of today, we don't see truly autonomous or truly goal oriented agents in the market. And that would be the over promise which you would often hear from your partners.
So just to put it simply, Amit, given the current maturity of solutions, almost all the solutions might be promising and under
Yeah.
delivering, given the current readiness of the technology and even the enterprise's willingness to adopt some of these solutions.
Yeah, and but at the same time, what we are also advising our clients is that it does not mean that you should not start working on AI agents or start working with AI agents, because this wait and watch approach can lead to a lot of trouble in terms of not having the right infrastructure in place when truly AI agents come to the fore, and also the opportunity cost is high. We have seen organizations who took wait and watch approach for generative AI, and it took them a lot of time to come to terms with the market or their peers, because they were waiting to see the results. Instead, as we mentioned, start small. See the kind of results or see how it is working for your organization, and then scale accordingly.
All right. I know we're only 2 minutes out, and I do see that, yeah, probably a minute out. So I see that there is one question which is really closely linked to this, which is on strategic sourcing and a lot of coordination needed across internal and external stakeholders. I think what I would do is quickly answer that by saying that an AI agent will do as you train the workflow, right? So if you want a lot of coordination to be there, and if you're actually able to define all the steps within it, then the agent can execute to that extent. But of course, then in that case, the human in the loop factor that Prateek mentioned will come in a lot, right? So that's how you need to think about which processes you need to get the agents for versus what will actually not work well by getting an AI agent involved. So I think with that, what we can do is, sort of close this session. And it was actually great to share so much with you, and it was great to actually hear the exciting questions in the chat. Right, makes us understand that there's a lot going on in the industry as well from the audience. So yeah, great to have this session. Thank you, Prateek, Amit, and thank you everyone for joining. I think we've also posted the Engage link in the chat, so do check out our agenda.